Honorable members, why are you rising? Mental health bill or something? So it means we have more mental health issues this side because there were more standing on this side. But the ones who are standing more on my left. Honorable members, as we had agreed before health break, we will now go to the bill by private member. Clerks at the table.
Supplementary order paper, item 3, private members' business, bill, first reading, bill number 1 of 2025, forestry amendment.
Honorable member for Chitipa South.
Madam Speaker, before I proceed, I would like to request for a waiver for the 28 days notice because the bill has not reached the 28 days notice, but it has satisfied the 7 days notice. Because of its importance and looking at the fact that this might be the last sitting of Parliament, I would like to request for a waiver for the 28 days notice. I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Chitipa South. Honorable members are now put the question. The question is that we waive all relevant standing orders in order to allow the honorable member for Chitipa South to present his bill number 1 of 2025, forestry amendment, as it has not satisfied the 28 days notice, but it has satisfied the 7 days notice. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Chitipa South. South second reading when?
Madam Speaker, today and now.
Honorable members, if no one wishes to speak, I now put the question. The question is that bill number 1 of 2025, forestry amendment, be taken today. Those of that opinion say aye. Aye. Those of the contrary view say no. The ayes have it and the motion is carried.
Private members' business, bill, second reading, private members' bill number 1 of 2025, forestry amendment.
Thank you. Honorable member for Chitipa South.
Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce private members bill number 1 of 2025, forest amendment. This bill seeks to amend the Forestry Act of the laws of Malawi in order to iron out operational challenges currently being met in the implementation of the Act. Among others, the proposed amendment aims at addressing challenges being faced by forestry officers regarding the use of firearms. Madam Speaker, you will recall that through Forestry Amendment Act of number 7 of 2020, which by the way was brought to this House as a government bill, Parliament authorized forestry officers to carry and use firearms in the process of conducting and inspecting in our laws enforcement. However, while authority was granted to carry firearms, there remains lack of other provisions granted to carry other provisions on the circumstances under which these firearms can be used. This gap has resulted into forestry officers being arrested when they use weapons, even in self-defense. Currently, the Department of Forestry has several criminal and civil cases involving officers' use of firearms. Consequently, many officers hesitate to use firearms even when under attack, leading to increased cases of assaults, injuries, and fatalities of forestry officers. In 2024 alone, The department lost 1 officer, 9 officers were seriously injured, and 5 officers were arrested, some of whom are still remanded in prison to date. This has affected the willingness of officers to do forestry patrols in protected forest reserves. Let me reiterate, Madam Speaker, and emphasize that this amendment bill being presented in the House today is not authorizing the carrying and use of firearms by the forestry officers, as this was already done under Act number 7 of 2020. Rather, this bill is proposing circumstances and possibility of safeguards under which firearms can be used by the forestry officers. Madam Speaker, at present, all forestry-related cases must be investigated by police, who often are preoccupied with their own case loads under the Penal Code and other laws. This bill, therefore, proposes that officers are granted investigative powers to enable them to conduct investigations related to officers under the Act, compile reports, and prepare documents for court processing. Already under Section 14 of the Forestry Act, officers have been enabled, of course, with the nomination of the Director of Public Prosecution to undertake and prosecute criminal proceedings in respect of any offenses committed under the Act. The power to prosecute has already been granted. It is therefore being proposed that the power to investigate be granted as well. Madam Speaker, in recent times, the country at large has seen an increase in illegal commercial processing of wood and in industries that are using wood and charcoal as sources of energy. Such industries use massive amounts of wood and charcoal, resulting in deforestation and forest degradation. There is already a provision in terms of Section 82 of the Forestry Act which addresses this situation. However, there is, in addition, a proposed amendment to that section which now establishes an offense and introduces a penalty of 50 million Malawi kwacha and a custodial sentence of 20 years. Given the scale of operations and high wood demand of some industries, many of which are key drivers of deforestation, it is thought and suggested that the proposed penalty is proportionate to the severity of the offense. The other key amendment, Madam Speaker, in this bill is a proposal to remove option of fine for offenses related to charcoal trafficking. Courts frequently opt for fines over custodial sentences, which weakens enforcement efforts against the illegal charcoal trade. Mandatory custodial sentences are more likely to deter trafficking and disrupt supply chain of illegal charcoal penalty for drivers, especially of motor vehicles. Madam Speaker, with this background information, I beg to move.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member for Chitipa South. I now call upon spokesperson from DPP. Yes, Honourable. Oh, sorry, this is a private one, so yes, we'll start with government. We'll start with government, yes. Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for granting us an opportunity as a minister to make a comment on this private member bill. One thing I'll say is that this is one of the best private member bills that we will continuously support now and again if it comes again and again. Why we are saying so, Malawi is one of the highest deforested nations in the SADC region. And our forest cover loss is around negative 2.4% per annum. And if you do the mathematics, you find that at that pace, by 2079, Malawi will have no forest cover, which is a very dangerous venture. And where a private member has come up with such a suggestion, we support it, because the greatest loss of our forest cover is due to reinforcement failures. And the reinforcement failures is coming in because our forest guards are the most weakest ones because the legal framework does not support them to be the real forest guards. While others are able to protect what they are supposed to protect, the forest protection team does not have the capacity because of the legal limitations. And now this bill is trying to create space from the legal framework to allow our officers to enforce the laws and make sure that the forests are protected. With these very few remarks, we wholeheartedly support this private member bill. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable spokesperson from DPP, Machengali Kwenu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity given to the people of Machingali Kwenu to respond to this private members bill on behalf of the Democratic Progressive Party. I would like to thank His Excellency Professor Arthur Pinamtariga, our president, for entrusting me with this responsibility, and also the leadership of DPP in the House for allowing me to respond to this bill. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill. Today, we are actually dealing with very important bills to this nation. 2 weeks ago, the very capable Minister of Forestry did admit in this House that we are losing the battle in terms of protecting our forests is concerned. I remember that the minister before him, and I think it is the current vice president, then went on to say that the enemies of the forests are the forest guards themselves, meaning that most of our forests are being depleted by the people we entrust to protect the forest. So this is a conundrum that we must address. But, Madam Speaker, I was privileged to serve in this ministry, and by an administrative order, we directed that forest guards should carry firearms. Now, I remember a member sitting on this side then, on the opposition side, a member from Lilongwe South. He's now in the embassy, I think. He used to say, shoot to kill, if you remember that. But I don't think that is the purpose of this bill. The purpose is to ensure that we protect our forests in a lawful manner. Now, Madam Speaker, moving on from the administrative directive of about 2016 allowing forest guards to carry firearms, the law was passed in 2020 to legalize the use of firearms, and now this is a maturing of that law to give regulations for the use of the firearms and to ensure that all stakeholders, players, offenders, and law enforcers understand what the law says regarding the use of firearms. Let me emphasize, Madam Speaker, that if we do not up the game in terms of protecting our forests, I want to agree with the Honorable Minister that we shall be a desert in no time. Those of you who have been privileged to fly into Lilongwe from any direction, you will notice the lack of forest cover as you are landing at Kamuzu International Airport. There are no trees around here, and that is actually reflective of most parts of the country. Wherever you go, I used to think that it's only in the south and part of the center, but when I visited the northern region recently, I also found a lot of people selling charcoal right in the face of forest guards.